Gen Z quietly gave up and nobody noticed. Gen Z is the, those are Zoomers. Here we go, let's watch this.
So I went on Reddit the other day and I saw a thread that was quite interesting. The title was, "What's it like being in your 20s in the UK these days?" And even if you're not in the UK or 20s, I bet you'll be able to relate to the top answer.
Okay.
Let me read it out for you. What's the point? I'm renting and I would love to buy a house, but
you're never gonna buy a house. Houses are for people that are over 50, and you're never gonna retire, you're just gonna die.
What's the point? I'll likely never pay it off. I'm paying loads into a pension, but what's the point? I'm gonna be working until I die. I'd like to see a doctor about some minor ailments, but what's the point? There's never any appointments anyway. If you couldn't tell, this is going to be a video that is brimming with optimism.
Oh, we love the doomer videos. Those are great. Is that true for you guys? And like, think about it like this. That's somebody in the UK. I have to see the doctor over here? Okay, well, that's all your money.
But I think there's an important message to be made here. If you've clicked on this, I'm going to assume that to at least some degree you can relate to the sentiment that this user has posted. In fact, I came across a study that...
I used to be in this place. Back whenever I was younger, early 20s.
Found that over half of young people agree with the statement that humanity is doomed. And if I wanted to convince you otherwise, I could tell you that child mortality has dropped by half in the last 20 years, or any other bunch of random stats, but I don't think they actually convey anything helpful for most of us. I want you to stick with me for the next few minutes because I think we can actually go in a more useful direction.
Okay.
And on the off chance that the random Reddit user FroyoFlashy6048 is watching this one's for you, bro. So the sentiment expressed in that comment is hardly something uncommon, and just like absolutely everything that my generation has done, they've turned it into a meme. The meme is called the Doomer.
Yep, that's right.
Presumably some of you aren't chronically online and aren't entirely familiar with the Doomer. And so I want to give you a definition as described by one of my favourite channels on YouTube, Pursuit of Wonder. The Doomer is an individual who's in their early 20s. He or she is...
Oh, it could be in their early 30s too. Which reminds me, soon I'll be in my mid-30s. And that's why I'm a doomer.
Someone who feels a sense of aimlessness or loneliness, and is consequently stricken with a deep despair for life. For the doomer, life is meaningless, and the world is inevitably doomed by humanity's ignorance, greed, and futility. As a result, the doomer sees little to no reason in engaging in traditional pursuit.
That's right.
And retreats from society into apathetic...
That's right. That's where you farm the Shaco. That's where you farm achievement points. That is where you are level 100 in the preseason of Diablo 4. That's right. Oh, that's right.
Now, if this description is at all relatable to you, as it was for me, then I want you to stick with me for the next few minutes. Okay. Because understanding a little bit about why this phenomenon is so prevalent nowadays might give you a few tools in your arsenal to help you deal with these feelings.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
So, brief aside, there are a lot of people in the world right now who are materially affected by quite tragic circumstances. And I'm not aiming to invalidate anyone who does feel that way. What I want to focus on is instead a sense of disillusionment, a feeling of disconnection from the social environment that...
Well, people are disillusioned because they go to a job that they fucking hate, and they're fed social media algorithms that make them hate themselves and hate everybody else around them. They're surrounded by people that they fucking hate. They don't have any money. They're fat. And if they're not fat, they have 4 other body disorders because of Instagram filters. And they're unhealthy. They can't afford to have kids. They can't afford to have a house. They're renting a car on 21% interest. They've got credit card debt. They got a theoretical physics degree that got them a theoretical job. The only thing that's not theoretical is the $80,000 of student debt. Yeah, they never forget about that one, huh? Voted for Biden. He said he was going to get rid of it. He forgot. Maybe next time he'll do it. Sure, they've been having a pain in their leg, but if they go there, then they won't be able to afford food. So do you want your leg or do you want food? Well, I don't know.
A lot of people feel right now. And I'd like you to keep that in mind when watching the rest of this. Okay, thanks. So, if I asked you, why has a generation in the face of these gigantic issues chosen to give up en masse? You might give a few different answers. Some of you might say something like this. Well, people these days just don't want to work for what they want. This generation has just decided to choose the easy way out instead of facing the struggles head on. To which I would say, well, why do we assume that giving up is the easy option? Let's try listening, and maybe we might reach a different conclusion entirely.
I think that there are a lot of people that give up. I actually think that's true in a lot of cases. Maybe I'll be an asshole for saying this, but we live in a world now where you can get a quality education that is better than anything else anybody could have gotten maybe 200 years ago, aside for like royalty, about anything if you have an internet connection. You can teach yourself to do anything. You can teach yourself to be a mechanic. You can teach yourself to build computers. You can teach yourself to code. You can teach yourself to do anything, but all you're doing is teaching yourself to complain about the world. I think this is true. Absolutely. There's a massive culture of learned helplessness, and I think it's harmful. I think it's very harmful. And if you ever speak out against it, the people that you're speaking out to will call you privileged. They'll say, oh, well, you had it easy. They don't realize that they have it easy too while they're typing on their fucking smartphone on their high-speed internet in their first world country. Easy, meanwhile their ancestors died in World War. Yes and no. You might have the resources to gather the information, but you may not have the time or money to afford it because you have to care for your family. Yeah, but these are people that have 24,000 tweets on their Twitter, but they can't fucking figure out how to learn a skill. These are people that are level 100 in Diablo, but they can't learn a skill. You've always got time. Of course you've got time. Maybe not every single person. There are people out there that are fucked. I'm talking about they are fucked. But you know what? You're probably not one of them. It's probably not that bad whenever you really put it into perspective.
I find it very difficult to say that doomerism is an easy way out when it's not really a way out of anything.
No, it's not. It's
it
just
doesn't
coping
relieve
mechanism.
any particular individual of the stress and the trauma of human behavior at large, and I don't think it necessarily frees you from anything. This angle, I feel, is most often brought forward by people from a different generation who fundamentally had a different contract between them and society at large. People who lived a large part of their young adulthood through a time of optimism, a time where it seemed like
Well, keep in mind, the world is incredibly fucking optimistic now. We have constant medical scientific breakthroughs all the time. AI is making people's lives easier in tremendous ways. Automation is going to remove back-breaking jobs that basically force people into, some like modern day feudalism to where they have to work for like $8 an hour at Walmart. The world is getting better and better and better. The problem is that the social systems in the world are not getting better at the same rate that technology is. So, like, the people that are running shit don't understand the capacity for technology, and because of that, they're designing rules that would have made sense 20 years ago. Many people face AI advancements with doomer mentalities, though. It's because they're stupid. That's not their fault.
Work would actually genuinely be rewarded. What I think we see when we look at doomers is a group of people who feel one of two ways: misled or powerless. It's a group of people that is bombarded with messaging that tells them that their efforts are futile. They feel like the contract between society and them has been broken irreversibly, and thus there's nothing we can do but resign ourselves.
This is what happens, right? Is that you go to school, you're fucking 17, you can't afford to go to college, all of your friends are going to college, their lives are moving on, their parents are able to pay for things, your parents aren't, you're, just falling behind socially, which causes you to fall behind academically. And then, there's like the vicious circle of these two things. You're working a job that you hate. Meanwhile, other people have like their dad owns a company, so they're able to get a job there that's not as unpleasant, and they're able to be paid more and, have good, like a fucking, like contacts and shit, right? Networking. There are all these things. And then, you start off like this, and then by the time that you're 25 or 30, it's like this. And so you're still working at Hobby Lobby, and this person has a $100,000 a year job. And that's what happens. So, right, yeah, well, I mean, how do you think I know this?
And so I don't think it's fair to characterize doomerism as a choice necessarily, as a conscious decision to give up and choose ease of life, because it's not any easier than any other mode of life. Rather, it's a mindset that one develops after losing the so-called naive optimism you might have as a younger person.
Well, yeah, that's what happens. Is I think most people are doomers. Like, people that are doomers are mainly doomers because they thought things would be okay and then they weren't. That's what happens. Everybody, like, oh, well, things are gonna get better. They're gonna get better, then they don't, and things are gonna get better, then they don't. And I think that with a lot of these people, the reason why they don't get better is because of their own actions. It's probably their fault that they don't get better. But a lot of people don't have the self-awareness for that. They don't realize that they are feeding into their own negative, vicious circle of life. They're taught that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of a cell and how to divide fractions in school. They don't know how to do taxes. They've got no self-esteem, but they can speak another language in a country they'll never go to.
And some of you might agree with that. Some might even take the idea further and say something like this. Okay, so I get what you're saying. It sounds to me like doomerism and apathy are almost like a rational response. Why would anyone bother caring when facing these issues such as climate change and retirement?
Yeah.
It seems to me like the sensible, rational thing to do is to give up, right?
Well, the reason why people don't care about the social issues is because they're disconnected from the social environment. Why would somebody care about what happens in climate change? Why would somebody care about the world if the world doesn't care about them? Basically, that's what it is. So that's why you have people that are withdrawing from society and are so, like, I think a really great example of this is, like, you think about all of the people that were celebrating those guys that got killed in the in that submarine in the Titanic. Not in the Titanic, but, like trying to see the Titanic. The reason why they're celebrating it is because they feel like those are the people that are causing their life to be bad. That's the reason. And in their mind, these are the people that are disconnecting them from a healthy life. Hassan, bro, like, he's not here. Is Hassan in the room with you right now? Stop it. Like, there's plenty of crazy people all over. I just have a morbid sense of humor. Kind of a funny way to die, not gonna lie. Well, I mean, I don't know. But the point, I don't mind the jokes. I think the jokes are fine, but there are people that genuinely feel that way. I don't care about the jokes. People are always going to joke, 9/11 jokes, fucking like school shooter jokes. Yeah, sure. But I don't think anybody's getting upset about that, except for pussies. But the people that I'm really talking about, the people that, like, are genuinely happy about this. They're like, haha, we got one for our team.
And at one point in my life, I would have agreed with this. But lucky for me, you're allowed to change your mind.
Yeah.
I would even encourage it. See, okay. I believe that most people in my age group are genuinely passionate about certain things. We do face this issue, however, that we are constantly told that our efforts are futile. And in such an environment, the overwhelmingly sensible thing to do
that's because they are. Most people's efforts are futile. If you live in a gerrymandered district, if you live in some fucking redneck place in Florida, and you think that, you think there should be a universal basic income, your vote, they're going to take your vote and they're going to put it in the garbage. And your vote goes into the garbage. And it's going to stay there until the next time that you vote, and that one's going to go into the garbage on top of the first one. However, just because somebody can't affect the world doesn't mean that they can't affect their life. There are a lot of people who can improve their life, but they can't improve the world. And in my opinion, if enough people improve their life, They will collectively improve the world. But nobody wants to do that because it's a lot easier to say that, oh, well, I'm disenfranchised from voting. Oh, well, this system is against me. You're right. The system probably is against you, and you probably are getting disenfranchised. And what are you going to do about it? Because if you don't do anything, nobody cares. Because nobody cares about you and you don't matter. And as soon as you realize that, it's a morbid feeling, but it is also very freeing. Because whenever you see that, you can realize and take actions for yourself, rather than waiting on somebody to bestow upon you the life that you were promised from a Disney movie. That's what I think.
To be not bother. But I don't necessarily think that that's an inherently rational way to respond. In fact, when it comes to human behavior, rationality is the exception rather than the rule. And I think keeping that in mind is really important when it comes to challenging thought patterns that can be unhelpful to you. The idea of rationality in human decision making was kind of the motivation for this entire piece, specifically the work of Daniel Kahneman, a psychologist who specializes in that area. His most famous piece of work is probably the book Thinking Fast and Slow.
Obama be giving him AirPods or earbuds.
And in it, there's one specific idea that I wanted to share. I actually came across Thinking Fast and Slow in a bookshop recently, and it got me thinking about the subject of rationality. I'd read the book years ago, but thanks to today's sponsor, Shortform, I was able to get a really quick overview of the main ideas. I've found that the books on Shortform are way more useful than like a normal book summary. They come with these neat little exercises to test your knowledge, and they also have references and sources to all of the material inside the book. They have books on psychology, science, economics, and just about everything.
Yeah, but do they have the books that you have to read in high school that you don't want to, and so you can just take the test like on there, and then it just tells you the right answer, so you don't really have to read the book? Because I did that on Catcher in the Rye, like 2 times, like one in community college and one time in high school, and it worked pretty well with SparkNotes, but it wasn't ideal.
Everything else. So I really do think that there's something for everyone
That's
there.
what matters.
I've used a few services like this before, but what I really liked about Shortform is that they made it super easy for me to dive deeper into specific areas and ideas that I found interesting. And I didn't have to commit undue time and energy to learn the things that I wanted to learn. If you too are interested, then you can get 5 days of unlimited access to thousands of books and a 20% discounted annual subscription through my link, shortform.com/fads. Thank you to Shortform for sponsoring this piece. Let's get back to it. So the specific idea that really resonated with me goes along the following line. When trying to answer the question, what do I think about X? You tend to think about
Go to
the
LSF and have them tell you what to think.
easier but misleading question. What do I remember about X? And how easily do I remember it? The more easily you remember something, the more significant you perceive it to be.
Yeah, of course.
When we're surrounded by information that's designed to make us feel powerless, then naturally we resign ourselves to feeling powerless. But there is another...
You're not, it's not about information that makes you feel powerless. It's about information that elicits an emotional response. Like, that's what really, like, what's your Twitter fucking thing? Like, I go to my Twitter, like, what do I have on Twitter? Somebody died, plane crashed, titties, somebody else died. Turns out that we thought we were bombing Al-Qaeda. Turns out it was a family. Government says they did nothing wrong. They've investigated themselves. Everything's okay. There were no mistakes. It's just a freak accident. More titties. Because it's, again, like, it's about things that are there to elicit. Oh, yeah, I forgot. And then there's another one of, like, 2 kids in high school beating the shit out of each other. And then the school cop comes in and shoots one of them in the leg. The kid's dead now. And then after that, there's a cat girl with big titties. Because all of those things give you an emotional attachment.
Thing worth noting. And that's that time and time again, the people who have had the most impact, the people who've been heralded as leaders of movements, have been those who've behaved in a way that's inherently irrational. Their behavior would only ever really make sense in retrospect. Now, I'm not saying that me or you is going to be able to solve huge systematic inequalities within our lifetimes. We have no ability to predict the impact of our behaviour throughout and beyond our lifespan. What we do have an ability to do, though, is to commit to values that we believe to be true, and to focus on seeing those values represented in people immediately around us. Whenever the kind of doomer mindset tries to come back to me, I do remember the fact that, for the most part, most people will not be remembered for their actions. But that does not mean that their actions do not have lasting consequences. I would, for example, challenge you to name more
People spend all this fucking time thinking about, like, what are people gonna remember about me? Who the fuck cares? You're gonna be dead. What the fuck does it matter? What are you wasting? And again, the reason why people, this is my perspective, is the reason why people focus on bullshit like that, it's so they can feel like they have some sort of a morally good or like morally high thing to aspire to that will rationalize in their mind them aspiring and thinking about this thing rather than solving their immediate problems. It's like, have you guys ever had a situation where you needed to study, but that's whenever you decided to clean up your room so you can distract yourself and you can feel like, oh, well, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing something that's good for me, and I'm tricking myself into not doing what I need to do. That's what I think people try to do.
Say 10 people who are actively involved in the civil rights movement. And yet, it took the collective effort of millions of people to bring about change. And I think that's true for any issue that you care about. The people whose impact ends up affecting change are those who behave in a way that we would deem irrational. Because what humans would describe as rationality, I think, is more analogous to just talking about the status quo. We believe that whatever exists makes sense. I, for a long time, was a doomer, but I do think that things are starting to change. I'm starting to see the value of adding my voice to a collective, and accepting that it doesn't matter really whether or not that voice is actually heard. What matters is that I've made a concerted effort to make it heard.
You do something, like, fuck. Yeah, you've got to do something. It's like, again, everybody, again, I think people try to focus their energy into these high-minded ideals to make themselves feel good about ignoring their immediate life. Well, I'm solving the problems of capitalism by replying to tweets of Ben Shapiro. No, you're not. No, you're not. You ain't doing shit. And you know it, and that's why they're unhappy.
Within the people who are immediately around me. And that approach to life has made me a lot less fearful. Living by values that you believe to be true is the only power I think we have. And no matter how rough or how bad things feel like they're going to be, it's a power that you'll always have. So why not try and use it?
Yep. You always have a choice. You can always do what you want. No, I figured I'd watch this video because I find this shit interesting. I like people that make these types of videos. I've never seen this dude's channel before. I'm going to give him a like, give him a sub. I'm going to link y'all the video. There it is. X simple. Yeah. Because people feel like they're like, oh, I'm playing video games. I'm getting something, right? It's like they trick themselves into thinking that they're doing something productive. And I think that it's completely okay to do absolutely fucking nothing productive, to waste your time every day, to waste your entire life playing video games, jerking off, and being a fucking loser. Because if that makes you happy, then that is what you should do. Absolutely. But the one thing that I fucking hate is people that do shit like that, and then they complain that the world is out to get them. The only person that's out to get you is you, and they're doing a very good job of it. Whenever I couldn't get a job, yes, obviously the economy was bad, but it was also because I filled out applications on old pizza boxes that gave them grease stains, and I put all my availabilities to not have to to not miss any of my rates. And guess what? I never got called back. So yeah, the economy sucked. True. But so did I.